is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Guarani Vision. Welcome to the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me as always are my great co-hosts, Federico Perez, Maria Britos, and Ralph Hanna. And guys, we've had a lot of soccer going on in Paraguay. Obviously, we saw what's going on midweek in the Libertadores and the Sudamericana. We had a huge game known as the Superclasico, not just for the men's side, but also for the women's side. And we saw similar results. And obviously, we got also Copa Paraguay going on. League action is starting to go back in Europe as well. So we have to keep our eyes on the Paraguayans playing there, especially with the World Cup qualifiers coming up in a couple of weeks. We got a lot to look forward to and talk about today. So let's go straight into it. Let's go all the way to the mother country first, to Fede Perez. How are you, man? How was your weekend, especially after everything that we saw in the Superclasico?
Oh, I had so much going on. Another gorgeous week here in Paraguayan football. So much to talk about, plenty to talk about. I don't know where we're going to start, Roberto. How do you? How to Ralph? How to Maria? How to everybody always joining us here in Guarani Vision? Obviously, we're going to talk about the women's and men's Superclasico because both of them were played this weekend. That was kind of weird. Olimpia's breakdown in the Superclasico. What happened with Cerro Porteño, 3-0 after such a long time. I think it's been like more than 20 years that we haven't seen a score like this, especially coming from Cerro in Olimpia's ground. The European leagues also coming back. We got so many Paraguayans playing over there. We got so much to talk about. We got so much ahead of us. We got so much going on. Also, starting the week, we're recording today, Monday, and I want to talk briefly in this intro about Copa Paraguay also because I've been doing some of the games, and we had an important game today in Pedro Juan Caballero, the border city between Paraguay and Brazil. The team from the Amambay district or department, call it as you want, in this round of 32 teams played today. The team is called Mariscal Estigarribia, whose colors and even their logo, I was looking into it, and the kit is very similar to that of River Plate, the giant from Argentina. They got the same thing going on. So if somebody is hearing us and they are actually rooting for River Plate, they should probably root for this team because they look just the same. That was kind of funny. You kind of get these stories also. They won 5-1. They got the best result because we're talking about a team that's from the rural union, like we explained on episodes before. These are the weakest teams, the weaker teams in the Copa Paraguay. So every time you get a result like this is kind of surprising. We've only had one other team that did this up until now in this round. That was Sports Sastreño, which Ralph talked about it on the last episode. And now we have this team, but this one made it with a bigger result, and especially because of the rival, because they played a team from second division, San Lorenzo. They beat them 5-1 in Pedro Juan Caballero. That's where they were playing today. Obviously, we have more games ahead of us this week, but I was blown away by the story of these guys. Some of them do delivery during the week. They don't only play football like we always say. And there was a story that caught my eye, which was Rudy Fernandez, the number 10 on this team, who was the man of the match and probably had the best day of his life because he scored 3 goals in this game that his team won 5-1. So you got all these stories going on. You got Copa Paraguay in the middle of everything, of Libertadores, of Sudamericana, and we're just trying to get it in there in Guarani Vision. Also, we got plenty of football to talk about here, Roberto, as always.
That's a tremendous result, though. They beat a team that, always obviously go in the second division at the moment, but they have appeared in the first division as well for quite some time. But that is a huge result. And again, it shows these teams and these stories that we've talked about over the last few weeks about, wanting to show themselves. You talk about the player that scored a hat trick. I'm sure right now there are teams out there, maybe not in the first division, but maybe in the second division, and then starting to really look at someone that might get their services soon. So that's a fantastic result and shows another great story of this competition that a lot of people definitely have to look out for. Let's go to someone that hopefully the result for Cerro Porteño gave them a much more happier result after Arsenal's loss to Brentford over the weekend. Ralph, how are you, man?
Hey, how are you? Hi, guys. Hi, everybody listening and watching. Yeah, definitely Cerro Porteño winning 3-0 first on Saturday night and then this morning in the women's Clásico. That's definitely boosted me after that Arsenal performance. I did a little video on Twitter that maybe some people saw of taking off the Arsenal shirt to reveal Cerro. So I'm glad that didn't come back to bite me. It was a very good performance, which I guess we'll talk about. later on in the show. And just talking about all these things going on, there's another big game happening in this week on Thursday in Russia, which is the Paraguay beach soccer football team are in the World Cup. You wouldn't expect, like, Paraguay being a landlocked country, being very good at beach soccer, but actually there's, in the last kind of 10 years, they've really improved in that side of things. And I think this is the 4th World Cup they've been to or something. So that's something else to add to your schedule with everything going on at the moment.
Well, certainly, let's hope that boosts the morale of Maria, because she's had quite a weird week over the last 5 days. Yeah, I mean, Maria, how are you feeling? I hope everything is okay with you after everything that we saw from Olimpia.
Well, hey guys, how are you? I'm definitely hanging by a thread here. Not such a good weekend, although I did enjoy some La Liga action, and Barcelona ended up winning, which I was very happy about. But my Olimpia just didn't have a good weekend. But you got to look forward to what's next and forget the past, learn from it, and continue to improve in what you can, and look into the bright side, I guess. But other than that, just also I wanted to give a little shout out. I'm sure he probably won't be listening, but just in case, to Roque Santa Cruz. His birthday is today, Monday, August 16. So, just wanted to give him a little birthday shout out. I know that he's definitely a legend in not just Olimpia, but all of Paraguayan soccer. And I hope he continues to be that legend for many, many kids to come. But yeah, guys, looking forward to talk about this craziness that happened over the weekend.
Oh yeah, we got to mention, of course, Roque turned the big 4-0. He turned 40 years old, and just a couple months before his retirement, actually, he's going to retire at the end of the year. And yeah, like you said, Maria, definitely a legend in Paraguayan football, definitely one of the greatest ever, and a huge ambassador for Paraguayans in Europe, given the clubs that he's played for across his career. So definitely a special mention to Baby Goal, as people like to call him over there in Paraguay. But let's go straight into what happened over the week. Obviously, the first game that happened was Olimpia taking on Flamengo over there at the Estadio Manuel Ferreira in Parauno. It was a result that went completely wrong. And, I think many people kind of felt a bit optimistic. Ralph, you had mentioned beforehand that Olimpia had gone into this game without having lost to Flamengo ever in Libertadores. And that streak gets broken thanks to a 4-1 drawing of Olimpia, goals from Jordan Diaz-Carreta, Gabigol, Brace, and Vitinho. Ivan Torres did get a goal back in this game, but I'll go to Fede on this one first. It just, and all of everything that we had talked about, that this Olimpia side needed to find something, it went completely wrong for them. What is your assessment of what we saw from Orteman's team over there on midweek?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's what we talked about in the preview. This could happen. I mean, if Olimpia didn't have the right strategy, if they didn't hold back, we talked about the game before this one, before coming to Flamengo, and we said that Olimpia's best player was their goalkeeper lately. I mean, he saved them really against Inter, and that didn't happen against Flamengo. Why? Because Flamengo, like I said on the last episode, was going to get about 20 shots at goal. I think they got even more. And they're a very effective team. They have quality players. I mean, Enrique, Gabigol, they talk about Arrascaeta. I mean, these guys are flying over here in South American football. These guys wouldn't be in South America if it wasn't for Flamengo, if it wasn't for these Brazilian giants that have the money to pay these kind of players. Even Felipe Luis, that you see back there in defense. I mean, these are players that will probably be in Europe, and you're going up against these kind of players with an Olimpia that's having a crisis right now because of the way they're playing, because they don't have enough money to bring the big stars. I mean, when we started doing Guarani Vision, Olimpia was bringing into the country players like Adebayor. I mean, legends from the football itself. And right now, they're bringing players that are not contributing much, and that's the big depth on this Olimpia. I mean, and not just talking about this game, but talking about the planning to get to this spot and going through this phase. I mean, Olimpia barely made it here to this stage. We got to be honest about that in Libertadores. And to me, this is not a surprise that there's 3 goals of difference between one team and the other. And there is everything that happened during the match also. You know, I mean, VAR. Where is VAR for our games? Where is VAR for the Paraguayan teams? Arrascaeta probably punched somebody. He punched an Olimpia player. He knocked Salazar out. They had to take him out in an ambulance. He had to go to a hospital. He was knocked down the whole night. The guy probably woke up the next day, and they didn't even go to watch this on the monitor. They didn't even want to see what happened. I mean, seriously, I mean, some things are happening and really weird stuff. It happened to Cerro Porteño also, this big mistake on their leg against the Brazilian team also. So, you know, this is bringing up comments also in South American football, in the Paraguayan games. But this is beside what I was talking about first, right? The 3-goal difference that happened in this first game, and which I think it's really tough, if not to say impossible, to turn it around.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to mention about the VAR and the kind of controversy that happened, but also to temper that with Olimpia would have lost this game anyway. Let's be honest. I mean, the way Flamengo played at times when they kind of needed to do something or pull them apart or move the defense around, they were able to do it kind of almost at will. I mean, what I thought was really interesting for me was that second half. The Flamengo went into the second half, kind of took all the sting out of the game because they were happy. You know, they were maybe worried about the Ivan Torres goal and thought, okay, we're kind of happy to take it easy, and almost immediately score. And then that whole game, that whole second half, they were playing with a lot less possession, but they never really looked troubled by Olimpia. You never thought, you know, Olimpia is going to score a second goal here. And then even by the very end, they got the 4th that puts this tie kind of, you know, well away from Olimpia. There's pretty much no miracle that could happen in Rio de Janeiro that Olimpia could somehow come back to win this. But it is, you know, it is very hard to compete. This is maybe a reality check for Olimpia. Again, talking about the gulf, the economic gulf that Fede is talking about, and looking at the strength of these Brazilian teams, you know, across the board, not just in this matchup, but in the Copa Libertadores. So maybe, you know, this was the reality check that we didn't see against Internacional, but that kind of heroic performance they couldn't pull out for a 3rd consecutive game. If you think about Internacional was over 2 legs, so a step too far, I think, for Olimpia.
Yeah, Maria, I want to go to you on this one. Do you feel that Olimpia, in a way, and it's kind of a good point what Fed had mentioned, they just pushed their luck because of everything that they achieved? If you look at it, you know, the way that they got into the round of 16 and the way that they qualified to the quarterfinals, I think this Flamengo game gave them a huge bucket of cold water reality, basically, for them.
Yeah, you're definitely right there, Roberto and Fede, and even Ralph, you know, talking about how Olimpia has been downgrading, you know, for a year now, months, if you can say, because they've had like their highs, like you say, Roberto, you know, they won very well, and then they have their lucky times coming into the Libertadores, barely making it. But I mean, it also has, I mean, I believe in luck and I believe in all that stuff, but this has been happening, and it was about to happen. It was bound to happen. I mean, because, you know, we had Sergio Orteman coming to this team, and nobody was really very happy about this transfer, about this coach. You know, he was very clueless about what to do with the team. He's up until this past weekend, he still hadn't figured out the team that the Olimpia starting 11, you know, the core team that we needed. And so all this plus of players coming in and out, injuries, a few transfers that were okay, and just having one good player, the goalkeeper, it really doesn't help their situation. I really think that aside from from the players, aside from the coach. It also comes from the front desk. Making all these kinds of decisions hurts the team. And I think that from now on, they really need to figure out, okay, if we want to win trophies, we need to do this the right way. Doesn't matter if it takes a long time. Do it little by little. Hire the right person, hire the right coach, get the right players to figure this out. Of course, we had the pandemic as well that doesn't bring in a lot of money because it affected in everything. But figure it out. Everything has to work together for a team to actually win. And so we'll see. I mean, it was definitely some luck that they had, but they need more work.
And obviously the downfall of Orteman led to that as we go into the Superclasico, where Cerro Porteño ended up scoring 3 past Olimpia in the second half, goals from Boselli, Claudio Aquino, and Robert Moraz. I want to go first, obviously, continuing with the Olimpia. Obviously, they ended the game up with 9 men on the pitch. And Maria, it's back to square one, really. And it's so crazy when you think about it, that 9 months ago, literally 9 months ago, we were talking about this Olimpia side with Gorosito. They just won the Clausura. They beat Guarani on penalties. Now they get rid of him. They got Orteman, get rid of him now. And here comes Quique Landia as well. So it's just, it feels as if though there's been kind of a bit of a smokescreen. And this has been said about Olimpia for quite some time. I mean, look at everything that they've gone through over the last basically a year, ever since the pandemic started. President being fired, president being resigning because of the scandals of match fixing, and just the amount of debt as well that they have. This was all mounting, and it's just going to continue to go on and on unless drastic changes not only happen, obviously, like you mentioned, from the office and the administrative level, but also from the players that are going on. And I think heading into 2022, that a lot of changes have to be made. This huge, complete overhaul for Olimpia.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like I said, everything has to work in order for a team to achieve what they want to achieve, which is winning, trophies. And just Sergio Orteman even knew, I think, because he resigned and he was like, I'm out of here. There's no way for me to fix all of this. It can't just fall on his shoulders either. The players, we had injuries. We've had players that are not, you don't see them playing with their hearts. You see them you don't enjoy their games nowadays because they're all over the place. They don't know what they're doing. And we had leaders in the team that are not there when you need them as well. So it's really all just a downfall of everything. Like, when Rome fell and like everything just kind of, it's really sad, but I really hope that, they can take on this and really see what they can do about it. President maybe finding a better, like I said, finding a better coach. Apparently, Quique has been in charge before of the first team as a manager, and he apparently has been doing well with them.
He's gonna be there till the end of the year, Maria. He's gonna be there till the end of the year.
Right. Yeah.
But then it's like who comes in afterwards as well.
Exactly. Exactly what I'm saying. Like, look into. I mean, if he does well, obviously he should stay. But if he's not, then start looking around and seeing what's the better option to have Olimpia being managed by.
I think with the Olympiads, firstly, it's a very hard thing to fix because we talk about the overhaul, but again, the Paraguayan youth system still isn't happening. The Paraguayan FA pushed it back even further, so there's no youth football happening. So where do you get this overhaul from when you don't have any money, which is the case of both Olimpia and Cerro, by the way. I mean, Cerro have some big problems with debts. They're managing to get past it, maybe with the sales of some players. So by selling Villasanti, for example, their captain, who didn't play, of course, in the Superclasico, he had left. Olimpia have just sold Isidro Pita. He's gone to the second division in Spain, to Huesca. So, you know, they're trying to balance the books through sales, but they don't really have anybody to bring in because of that huge debt. And then they don't really have the youth system functioning. So it's a tough ask. But if we just quickly go back to the Clásico itself and the game, I mean, I really would put a lot of blame on the players there compared to the Flamengo match. I was taking notes on the game as I was watching, and the yellow cards that Olimpia was picking up was just, you know, like Quintana does one, like a really pointless foul on Vargas right out when there's no, you know, there's no real necessity to make the foul. I saw one, Derlis Gonzalez does one in the second half, I think, just before Torres, like he pulls down a player, but it's pointless. There's no danger. Then Ivan Torres, his red card is like a rush of blood to the head because it's an off the ball situation with Enzo Jimenez. Is, you know, he's one of the most experienced players there they have. And should be one of the leaders, and that red card really changes the game, because I thought in the first half Olimpia looked quite good. Cerro had a lot of changes themselves, so they had like Adorno in central defense. Carrascal was playing with Coyote Rodriguez, who was, you know, pretty much in his first game because both Villasanti is left and Lucena is injured. So I felt Brian Ojeda was maybe the key man in that first half for Olimpia. He was controlling a lot. He put in a really good pass to Derlis Gonzalez early on that Derlis nearly scored from. I remember Roque had a good header and very early on. So I thought, you know, Olimpia didn't look out of it. It didn't look like a 3-0 game at that point, but the red card changed everything, I thought.
They looked fine against Flamengo the first 5 minutes too, rough, and look how that ended. Come on. You were giving it too much life. You were expecting too much out of that team. Eventually, they were going to break down again, because that's what's been happening to Olimpia in most of their games. I mean, they start out well, and then they just break down. I mean, they melt down. I mean, this was just ugly in the Superclasico. I mean, this is just a game where you don't want to lose by 3-0, and the team and the opposing team pretty much dancing in front of you. I mean, they were taunting you. They were doing a couple of moves that you don't like, you don't want to see in the Superclásico. And the players weren't liking it either at the end of the game. I mean, Olimpia had lost two players, like you said, for red card, Richard Ortiz, and they lost Ivan Torres. I think Ivan Arturo Torres, I mean, please, this guy's been on the spotlight lately because of his marriage, because of a lot of situations, because of a lot of things that are being said about the way he plays. He's a very good player, but I mean, he totally messed it up. He messed it up for his teammates. He messed it up for his team. I mean, at the moment that he leaves the pitch, the game was 0-0. I mean, Olimpia could have fought that game, and he really messed it up. And after that, it was another totally different game, and Cerro really went at it in that second half. I mean, after the first 45 minutes where you thought, hey, Olimpia can actually win this. Olimpia can fight this. Then you saw Cerro Porteño really decided in the second half. They really went at it. And even before the goal that came at minute 66 from Mauro Boselli, their center forward, I mean, Aguilar had just stopped a shot from Mauro Boselli in the box. And then you had Claudio Aquino's awesome goal. And an assist also. He just took over. He just took charge on this Superclásico. He became the best player in the pitch. And then you even had Robert Morales coming in and decorating the result with a 3-0. I mean, this was just too much, especially because you were playing in Olympia Stadium. You had a coach that didn't have the people behind him anymore. That was Sergio Orteman. There was no people in the stands, because that would have been a totally different situation. That would have been totally different Superclásico. Also, you know, Cerro Porteño winning there by 3-0. So, I mean, it was just the end. I mean, the end of the story, the end of the very short Sergio Orteman era. And now it's Kike Landaida, who's been there before. He thinks he can solve this. He knows the players know him. He's worked in the club before, so he thinks he can kind of fix this. I mean, Olimpia is in the last spots in the Paraguayan league, and that's all they have left.
Yeah, and ultimately, I don't think they won't have enough points to go and contend for that title. So ultimately, it's the case of making up the points to qualify for the Libertadores or even the Sudamericana at this point. I think that's the main goal for Olimpia at this moment. And credit to Cerro as well. I think they definitely needed that morale boost, especially after getting not off to the greatest of starts in the league. So this was definitely something that they needed. But yeah, looking at the league as well, just real quick. I mean, it's been fascinating to see, guys. I mean, we have Guarani top at the moment. You know, you got River Plate as well. on there, making some sort of change and going in for some fight. So I think it's going to be a really interesting league. I don't think it's going to be as tight as we saw last time, but yeah, keep an eye out for them. It's going to be interesting. And switching gears now, obviously, into the Copa Sudamericana. Obviously, we saw another Paraguayan team participate in that tournament. We saw Libertad take on Santos over there at the Villa Bermido. And it was all going well, actually, for Libertad. They were about to leave Brazil with a 1-1 draw, which puts them in pole position to qualify heading into the next game over there in Defensor del Chaco, but they ended up conceding in the final minute thanks to a Barbosa own goal. Bocanegra scored a fantastic free kick, actually, to give them the equalizer, but ultimately it's going to be all decided in Asuncion. And you know something, Ralph? I think it favors Libertad in a way, especially because I think they got that all-important goal, and I think many people expected Libertad. I think they were going to get a result either way, and you know the fact that they got a goal was good enough. So you know only one goal, one away goal basically, and that puts them into the semifinals. How do you view Libertad heading into this game?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the game management wasn't bad until this very last minute where they see the own goal happening. And I think we talked about Barbosa in the preview about, you know, he has these individual mistakes in him, and it kind of happened again. They're turning the ball in the very last minute of stoppage time. It's like, you know, you just needed to see out the game. But to your point, Roberto, the away goal by Bocanegra is obviously huge, because they can go into the match, win 1-0, and they're through, which is what you kind of expect Garnero is going to have to be looking for, I guess. I mean, what he'll have to try and do is tempt Santos into attacking and try and hit them on the counterattack, because that was working well, especially with Tito Villalba. I was surprised by the way he took Villalba off when he did. One of the better players. He brought on Ivan Franco, I think, maybe hoping to get kind of, you know, more possession in the middle. This is when Santos were down to 10 men. So he's thinking, okay, if I can control possession, then, you know, we can maybe find the second goal. As it happened, they did control possession very well, and there weren't very many chances for Santos until the very end, which has given the Brazilians, I guess, you know, the upper hand. But I wouldn't rule out Libertad to you know, to miss this chance. They're capable, I think, of winning at home. And just Libertad, just interesting, you talked about the league. They're having their worst start in the league since 1997, I think it is. Or is that Olimpia? They're maybe 2001. I mean, either way, it's like the worst start since 2001 for Libertad. Sorry, pretty much since, you know, they came back into the league from the second division. So they're going all out on this Sudamericana, so they have to make it count. It's a big match for Garnero and for the team on Thursday.
Do you guys see them qualifying? Just giving a yes or no from all of you. I think so, personally. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they can do it.
I think it's going to be very tight. I think ultimately, you know, I think it's going to be a very much an interesting battle over there. I think obviously having the chance to play at home kind of builds a bit more pressure, you know, having to all the teams out there, you know, especially in this kind of result where you need the goal to basically qualify. But I think their management and, you know, like you said, Ralph, I think because of what they're trying to do in comparison to their league form, they really want to go for this tournament. They really want to win it. And so I think they have the talent to do so. And we're going to stay confident in saying that they will indeed book their tickets to the semifinals of the Copa Sudamericana. So guys, I want to close it off real quick. And Fede, you had mentioned this before at the start of the show. Just some closing thoughts on, you know, what to expect. Obviously, we got qualifiers happening in about a couple of weeks as well. Copa Paraguay, as you had mentioned, the women's game, actually, Cerro Porteño Femenina defeated Olimpia 3-0, the same result that we saw a couple of days ago from the men. So, yeah, it's been fascinating, you would say, over there in Paraguayan football over the last couple of days.
Yeah, just to link it up to what you were saying about women's football, just because you mentioned the Superclasico there, you know, that tournament has a final stage that you have to get to where the four best teams qualify and they play against each other. So we'll see the real part of the tournament happening there, but it was a big match for the Superclasico and obviously for this Cerro Porteño that's been one of the dominant teams in the women's football. And another big news linking to that is that we're actually going to have the Libertadores, the women's Libertadores here in Paraguay. That was big news in these last couple of days. The final is actually going to be played in Uruguay, but most of the tournament will be played in Paraguay. Hopefully one of these big teams, either Cerro Porteño, Libertad Limpeño, Sol de América, Deportivo Capiatá, those have been the strongest teams here in the women's football during 2021. Hopefully one of these teams can make it big also in the women's game. And, we're talking about the national team, just to close it off, Roberto, from my side. I know we're going to talk about it on the next episode with some people that we're going to have over. So stay tuned and watch our next episode because it's going to be really awesome. I think that, some players need to be there. I mean, I'm seeing a great Jose Florentin from Guarani. This midfielder is just box to box. He's eating it. He's top scorer right now in the Paraguayan league. That's shocking some people. And obviously I want to see Hugo Martinez there also. I mean, he came back last game for Libertad and he was killing it. I mean, he was the best player in a team that's full of stars. And then this is a very young kid, and he's a midfielder, the type that Berizzo likes. So I'm just throwing these two names in there. These are my kind of players. These are the players that I would like to see. But I'll think of a little bit more, and on the next episode, maybe I'll give a couple more good names.
Definitely, it's going to be very much an interesting episode that we have packed for you. I'm so excited to talk about it. Always great to talk about the World Cup qualifiers. The fact that we get a triple header in September. So keep an eye out for that. And guys, I think this is the perfect way to close the show. As always, thank you everyone for listening. So for myself, Roberto Rojas, Fede Perez, Maria Britos, and Ralph Hanna, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Guarani Vision. See you soon.